everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our masterclass on the use of image cards in virtual events. And it's not just for virtual events, we're going to get lots of tips today on how to also use it in face-to-face events as well as online as well. So I'm sure many of you joining us today are already using image cards in a whole variety of ways. So one form or another, I've used them myself, to form connections between the learners, to share stories and experiences, and also, action planning at the end of a training program they're really helpful as well. And it's a great accessory, and for me it's a must-have in the training toolkit that we carry around with us as backups as well. So and it also fits really nicely with two capabilities that we've identified in our capability framework, which lists all the skills and knowledge that L&D professionals need now and in the future to be successful. And those two are basically managing learner engagement, so being able to use suitable techniques to ensure the learners are engaged throughout the learning process. And the second one is to be able to facilitate learning, so having a variety of tools and techniques to draw upon to keep the learners on track and achieve the desired outcomes that you have for your training initiatives. So I'm really looking forward to today, getting lots of tips. I've had a run through with Craig, so I'm very excited about what we're covering. So I'm going to hand over now to our CEO, Bill Gerard, and he's going to introduce the session for us. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Carrie, and welcome everybody. Bill Gerard with ILP. I think I know most of the people on the call today, which is great. What we're doing with these sessions now is we're going to extend them a little bit longer than they used to be, because we want to be able to not just have our guest presenter, facilitator involved, but we also want to catch you up a little bit on what we've been doing at ILP and show you just a few things that are going on. So sometimes it'll be things to do with the capability framework, other times it'll be doing with other things we're looking at. Today, what I thought I would do, and if you saw Carrie's email of what's happening at ILP email today, you would have seen that we talked about the Member Academy and the Member Forum and things like that. So I thought what I'd do is I'd just talk to you very briefly about the Member Academy, and I'll bring it up if I can to share the screen with you so we can actually have a look at it live. So can I just ask, can people see my screen? All right, yes. Good. Is it blocking anything out? Is there a gray part out blocking anything out? No, it's all good. All right, then that's great. So this is the ILP forum. What I want to do is I want to actually look at the Academy. So I'll pull that up instead. So this was something that we were thinking about in terms of last year we were looking at having a learning and development week, where what we were going to be doing is for a period of a week, we were going to encourage L&D people to put events up, promote them, and do things like that, similar to what we saw previously with things like innovation festivals and design festivals and things like that. And then, of course, what happened was that a lot of the things got canceled just as we were starting to go into the pandemic and things like that. So we were basically saying, well, this was a great idea where we could actually get particularly members, but other people in the L&D community to actually share what they're doing so that we can actually expose the L&D community to a wider audience. Just as designers were exposing themselves to a wider audience. And we wanted to do something in that sense. So what we said is, let's create another platform, and we called it the Academy at that stage because it made sense, where we could actually go ahead and put up events that are on an ongoing basis and that anyone actually could use them. So the Member Academy turned into that idea of it's a place for people to put their own events up, their resources, their offerings, and could be any number of things, in order for us to promote them to a wider audience, and for us to actually be able to say, gee, I didn't know that member did this, I didn't know that person did this, so we actually could see what other people are doing in order to potentially bring connections of some of our clients and some of our customers to each other, or collaborate in different ways. So that was the main thing behind it. So what I would encourage you all to do and is go to the Academy at some stage. It's just, you can see the URL there, and you can also access it from the main ILP site. And you can see a little bit about what we were trying to do and introducing the process, why we wanted to put it together, which is sort of what I just went through with you at this stage in time, and then how does it work. And then below that, we then have these categories. So this is where we're looking now for our members to actually start to submit things that they could put into place to see what's actually happening. So we've got, again, this has just started just in the last couple of days, so there's not very much up there yet, but what we want to do is see how we can pull that together. So we'll look at some of the courses in just a second. So there's a range of things. Categories will develop as we move forward and things like that. And if I go back down, we can actually see now some of the courses that are up and available. And again, these are not free. These are things that you offer your clients or your customers or whatever. And what you can do is you can actually promote that process. So it could be something free. It can be something that you're putting together for someone else. And again, you'll see different ways that they can put together. So we've had a number of people put some things up. Just to make it start. So there's programs that are corporate offerings. Some of them are a simple offering on an iPad. And again, you'll see a range of different things up there. So this is a place for you to basically showcase yourself to each other and to broader audiences. One of the things, if you do want to become a provider, we have a page called the Become a Provider page. And basically it outlines a little bit about how we're structuring that. And different members will have different levels of access to this process. So that's explained there and a little bit about how it works. So again, I go in and have a read of that. And then once you're doing it, you can actually then complete a form that allows you to give us all the information we need in order for us to actually see what it is that you're doing and put it up in the way we want. So let me just go back again. Obviously, all the things I got running here is not a good idea. So let's have a look at these. Let's look at this particular one here. Strategic skills for emerging leaders. And you can see how it's laid out. You can see there's a cost now that's there. And again, it's a case of buy from whoever is putting it together. I can't see that because of it's from strategic skills. So it gives a description of what it's about who's presenting it. In this case, it's Sally Newton and Margaret Wool. And again, you can just go ahead and put as much, you can see what you want to have with that. Let me just select another one. And again, these can be, as I say, one-off kind of programs. So you're just doing it once. It's like a public thing. It could be an ongoing thing. So for instance, let's say you have a weekly networking session that you want to get people to come to. You can, again, put that in. Here's one that I put up primarily as a test the other day, and it's been one of my long-standing programs. And it was designed to say it's my program on critical and creative thinking, which I traditionally run with corporate organizations. So it's, again, an outline of what it's all about, what are the benefits about us doing it, and a LinkedIn profile. So the idea here is that we're going to put these things up. We're going to populate this platform and then regularly promote it on social media and draw people's attention to it and say, check out what the person has just put up on our academy to move forward. So I just mentioned before about, we called it the ILP Member Academy. What we're looking to do is, because we've got a couple of other ways of looking at Academy, we wanted to create it something that wasn't so much about ILP. So we're looking at calling it probably a learning and development platform or a learning platform. So we're just playing around with some names on that to make it more friendly. And the other thing about it is, once we get it up and running, I'm just going back to the home page now. What we'll be doing with that is I'll be getting rid of a lot of the banner stuff here and a lot of this palaver up front, because once we get it going, we'll have it behind the scenes. And when people come in, they'll go straight to this kind of page, so you can go straight into seeing what the activities are and what the offerings are. So I wanted to just spend that little bit of time taking you through that so that you can see what's happening. And if you're interested in doing it, please go to the website and have a look. In the meantime, are there any questions on that? And you can unmute yourself and ask the question if you like. Nope. Okay. Well, while I'm here, I'll just quickly touch base on the forum. This is something that's of interest to us. We're trying to figure this out. And this is, again, we talked here, you asked for it, so we built it. This is some research that we did with members last year, where people were saying, we want to have a place where we can communicate on a peer-to-peer basis, where we can pose questions and ideas and work with peers in a way that allows us to, I guess, learn and grow from each other. And it wasn't sort of an open slather kind of thing. So it took a while to figure out how we might do that. And again, the forum, once we get it going and working, we'll change the design up front so that we don't have a lot of this stuff up front. But basically, we created a knowledge base, and then there's various forums. And so virtual members have access to some things, professional members, and then we go right down to people like corporate L&D leads and things like that. So to create that peer-based process, we had to actually create a sort of a matrix where we were giving people access to post and reply, where other people only had read access, and some people didn't have access to those things at all. So what we're trying to do is say, how does that work? And our aim was to say, the higher the certification that you're going and things like that, what kind of things would you be interested in watching? And then there's other things where you would contribute. And the idea behind it is to create that peer review. So part of that process is there. I've just posted a couple of things up there based on some stuff that Malcolm and I were talking about the other day about how do you pivot to how do you build an online training business, which I think is some of our members are looking at, not just going online, but actually creating an online training business. So that's an area for discussion. And again, this is where we want members to go up and post, follow and track any additions and replies and posts that go in there. And we're hoping that it'll develop. It's one of those things that said we're in a different age now from 6 months ago, really, but we're sort of going to test this and see how it works. But again, it's another thing that we built for members, and I encourage you to go ahead and have a look. As you can see, the URL is up there, forum at apilp.org, and we'll share it with you. So I will stop sharing my screen now and come back so I can see all the happy faces that are there, which looks great. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions on either of those two things or any comments, if you've been able to see it at all?
Bill, Stella had a question about the categories of certification. So I'm not quite sure whether we'll have time to go through that. So I can, one of us can call probably Stella later on, because we've got about 5 levels of certification, Stella, so right from facilitator, designer through to consultant. So yeah, so it's probably going to take a little bit too long to go through that. Because I know people need to get
it's a
into
restructuring process. Yeah. The idea to be able to identify people and let them identify themselves in where they want to fit, and it builds on the capability framework that we've developed, which again is something I encourage everybody to go in and have a look at. So if there's no other questions, what I might do is start to turn it over to Craig. Craig and I have known each other, and yet I don't think we've ever actually met, have we, Craig?
Well, I remember you. I mustn't have been as memorable as you. We did meet once. I met you down there in Melbourne many years ago.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know Leonie and I hadn't met until
Yes.
about a year ago.
Yes.
When I caught up with you guys again. But I think when CCS cards came out, and I was one of the first people to nab them and start using them all over the place, and I've enjoyed them ever since, and I'm sure other people have used image cards of some sorts over the years. And so we actually had Leonie speak at one of our Melbourne meetups last year and do a session for us there. But I got excited the other day when I saw Craig had put out something that he's working on, basically an app kind of process that allows the use of image cards in a virtual environment as well as in face-to-face environments. So I thought a lot of our members use image cards of different sorts in different images. So I thought, let's get Craig on to tell us a little bit about what's happening, and also give us some hints and tips on the use of image cards in different environments. And then later on, we can maybe throw it open a little bit to actually hear from you, from participants, as to what it is that's going on at this stage, and what are you using them for, and maybe share some ideas with each other. So we've got a little bit of more extra time than we have, Craig. So you got about an hour, including some questions. So why don't we turn it over to you?
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you, Kerry. And thank you everyone for having me today. It's quite an honor to be here in front of everyone. I thought COVID has been a very tough time for us all. So I thought as a way of introducing myself, though, I might just say, well, this is what I've been doing during COVID. I hope everyone else out there has been safe and not too affected by it. But I thought I'd show you what I've been doing. So you probably know this guy, Tom Gleeson from Hard Quiz. I make board games in addition to doing training and development products. I've been a board game developer for nearly 30 years, and I worked with Tom Gleeson's team and ABC, and we put this game out there, and I'm very excited to see that Tom likes it too, and he's been giving it a lot of interest. So games has, oops, sorry, I'll get the shininess off there. Games has been one of the things that I've been doing. I've also, over this time, been taking our vision packs, and in my case, the CCS cards, and our stickers and other hard copy tools that go with these, and transferring them to one of these. And we did actually do something like that back in 2012 and had it for a few years and let it go for a while, and now it has come back. We started at the beginning, sorry, towards the end of last year, and both with that and with Hard Quiz managed somehow to get those things done in the background, in particular with Hard Quiz, getting it to come from made overseas and into Australia in that time was quite a challenge, but it's been quite rewarding and quite exciting. So I tell you that to say, because my background, I'm just going to share my screen here. My background, here's a nice little family photo. Everybody see this? Yes, yeah, all righty. So this is me this is me here and my partner Leonie and my 7-day-old daughter back in 1997. This was an article in Who magazine back then, which was pretty exciting because one of our games called Compatibility had just gone around the world. The reason for showing you this is more that these little pictures, these little picture cards in front show that this was an image-based game, and it was through the compatibility game that the whole concept for me getting involved in image cards came about. And I show you this to say that the game paradigm really is what led to the particular approach that we've taken with image cards. So just let me move this forward. So today, I spend my time in two fields and fuse them together all the time. So developing games, particularly things like adaptations of TV game shows, and also the CCS, the image cards, which of course is one of the main things we'll be talking about today. So the use of image cards in real and virtual events. Bill and I talked yesterday about real. Obviously everything is real if it's happening, but by this I just mean I guess we know what we mean in most cases. In the room, in most cases, would be real and virtual otherwise. But so I thought it would be worth just making sure that before I get too far, and in a moment I'm going to open up and just want to ask you a few questions, and we can, I would really like some involvement today with some chats or some hands up, and I'll have a few little activities I want you to do along the way so that we can really begin to have a bit of a dialogue and an understanding of the sort of pointers I want to share with you. But first of all, I thought I should just make sure that we know what we mean by image cards, or at least what we refer to as image cards, because when we started this back in the early 90s, there was probably only a few kinds of things like this around. One in particular was photo language, the black and white set brought into Australia under Catholic education, I think originally. But these days, there are many, many of them. They have grown in popularity enormously, particularly in coaching markets. But when I refer to image cards, I mean cards with photos, illustrations, shapes, colors, symbols, a few words in most cases, but not particularly a standard card sorting approach with just words on them, like values cards and so on. I put them in a slightly different category. In particular, I want to talk about image cards today. And as an example, if I can just zoom in on this little bit here. Now it's not going to let me zoom. Wait a minute. Yes, it will. No, it's clicked away. Oh, there we go. Wait a minute. Now I need to go back. Sorry about that. I actually just wanted to zoom in on that one there, just to show that it is a card, cards with words on them. You would have seen these kinds of things before. So there is a strong image and usually 1 or 2 words, phrases. They're slightly different. I put them in a slightly different category, but they're definitely image cards. And I want to talk about those as we go through as well. So let's open this up a little bit to everybody. And if people could respond with some hands up to begin with, just as an example. So who, I know Bill did ask, but I didn't quite see who was doing them. Who does use or has used image cards then by that definition in their training and development? Three participants, yep, some, yeah. Okay, lots of you, okay. Can I ask why? Is it possible to go into a chat? Bill, if we can make sure that we start to see it, could someone maybe, a few people just pop a few words in as to some of the situations that you have used them and why, even just in a few phrases, a few words? So what are we getting? On TV tonight at 8 p.m. And training courses, gosh, you're going fast. Bypass linear thinking, visual kinesthetic learning, yes. Strategic planning. Unlock answers from Sue there, variety of, yeah, okay, excellent. Yes, there are many, many reasons why. I think the effectiveness of them and the ease with which they help us to do these things is their key thing. Let me summarize them in a couple, because I can see you've got, so I got thrown away by the On TV Tonight at 8 p.m. again. I'm assuming that's referring to the game show, not an image card thing. Invention, oh, here we go, wow. Invention activities, tap in the imagination, coaching. Yes, it is no wonder we use them. Link to emotions. Wow, I don't even need to be here. Everybody is very much on board here. To rearrange, okay, yes, as a fun way there. So if we could just summarize those things, are probably into 2 areas. If we look at the individual, and we can take some of those things that were said, looking at metaphorical triggers, so helping us to trigger new ideas, help people to associate different things with other ones, generating ideas. And one of the things I would refer to is tacit knowledge. So giving people words that they may otherwise not have found, giving them a way to describe something that they may otherwise not have shared, either because they didn't even know they were going to share it, or they just couldn't find the words for it. That's been a key thing. And also, I think grabbing multiple senses, which is one of the things that came up there, and the link to emotion is really important. There's someone there in the list, where was that? That was from Anita there. The other one is really in the interactions it causes between people. So image cards are particularly good at helping people to create a unique dialogue between them. There seems to be a real tendency for people to move into mutually disclosing quite deep personal things about themselves very quickly and very easily through the images. And they're often quite proud or motivated to share why they chose what they chose. And that leads then also to better engagement, builds trust and collaboration between those two people, and it encourages them to go further, I think, and to look for common ground and maybe to even reach agreement. And if we take more than just 2 people, of course, and then transmit this to a whole group, as many of you may have seen, it's actually relatively easy to get that group to come together around a key set of ideals and envisage together really what it is that they would like to take forward. So I think that's probably not a bad summary as well of the kinds of things that you have been bringing up. So really the purpose of today is to, first of all, just to take you across these 4 and then 5 question and answer. We've been working in this area for a very long time and producing all kinds of types of image cards for different markets, for entertainment as well as for education. And we've developed a few key things that we key distinctions for image cards themselves, for the methods, the facilitation methods that you use. Some of those we see as vital for getting the best from a facilitation experience with image cards. And I really want to share with you, because we're at the, for us at least, this is at the beginning of a new phase of taking all those good things that you've talked about there, and the things that we've developed ourselves, and how do you inject them into a virtual and transmit them across there. Some of them transfer easily, but I don't think all of them do. But I also think the virtual world is going to offer us as facilitators some pretty excellent examples of some pretty excellent benefits, particularly in distribution, of course. And then I wanted to share with you a little bit about the next step. So in that virtual image card app, sorry, I'll also be showing you how we take those and put them into that app and demonstrate that online for you. So this is a new app that we've just got out in the last few weeks, and I'm going to connect it here on my Android phone straight to the computer and demonstrate that. And then I want to just share with you briefly what our next step is after this one. And then I'm really keen to hear from you with questions and answers. And I will be asking for that along the way as well. And I'm happy, Bill, if people pick up on things and would like me to stop, and provided we would keep our eyes on the time, more than happy to be interrupted and go that way as well. Does that sound all right to everyone? Yeah, silent nods. It's so different, isn't it, to not being able to feel people in the room. All righty. Okay, so image card keys. I just want to go across 3 different areas, 3 types, 3 kinds of image use is what we refer to for us. These are somewhat proprietary things that we've developed that we use whenever we're putting together a new method or putting together new packs, new image card packs. We always keep these things in mind. And it's really about who controls the meaning in that. And we're going to do some little demos with you in just a moment. And also the different ways that those image cards can be provided. There are different formats, different geometries to how you lay them out for people. And then the type of image itself. And the reason for wanting to go into detail on these a bit is to just show you why I think it matters that we pay attention to some of these things. And also if whatever sets you've got or whatever new things you might wish to create, particularly now virtually, the idea of putting slides up with some images on them is clearly easy. And that's something that you may want to, or probably already doing, but I just want you to maybe think about it in a few different ways. So I'm just going to take these in turn. Oh, okay, sorry, I got balked by the, do I have to let that person, no, someone else has let them in. Okie dokie. Okay, so I just want you to imagine, here's an image on screen. And imagine I'm the facilitator now. And this could be in a room, so this could be on a big slide behind me. It could be a TED lecture, and up comes the image, or it could just be like this. So me talking with this image here, and the image comes up, and I say, in the end, really the only way that we're going to achieve what we need to achieve is if we commit, we get up early, we get it done, and if we all row to the same beat. Now, you've probably all heard that kind of thing before. If you walk down the aisle of a bank, or used to when you go into a big finance institution, you walk down their aisles when you're making your way to the meeting room, and there's always a poster like this that you don't even have to get to the bottom of that before you know what it says. It's going to say something like, teamwork is rowing together, or something like that. Now, I would call this facilitator's image, facilitator's meaning. And it's better than simply showing someone or sorry, than just actually speaking to somebody, rather than actually providing them with an image, clearly it stimulates the brain, and our brain goes crazy looking at that, trying to work out how does that fit in. In this particular case, it's an image that's very easy to do with, and that's probably why all I had to do to find this on Google was to type in rowing, sunrise, lake, and up the screen fills with a whole lot of options, because we love this kind of image. So that's one level. If you're using it, we just need to be aware that it is very much about your image and your meaning. So we can go a little higher. Let's try something else. Now I'm going to ask you a topic in two different ways. Let's start with the first one, and I would like to get some chats if we could, or if people are happy to come on, unmute and just share, then that is fine too. So I'm just going to ask you, what does this image mean for you? Or what does this image mean to you?
For me, Amanita, it means reflection. If I was looking at there, I'd be asking people to reflect on something in a pensive way.
In a pensive way. Quiet, peace, serenity, horizon, vastness.
Yeah.
Thinking time. Good. So let me just ask, oh, sorry, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, and because it's got space, to me, that's about strategic as well. It gives you space to think rather than being in a quiet place, but it's cluttered and the walls are close, whereas that actually has a horizon, so it's distance. So it allows you to look into the future, look, to what it could be as well.
Yes, yes. And I can see another one here. The vast horizon from Bill, the vast horizon of opportunity, very poetic. And Adele with rocky shore, perhaps obstacles to be overcome before reaching the peaceful water. Scarcity. Okay, excellent. You guys are good. Not everybody necessarily is quite as poetic as that. Someone might say, well, you've probably seen this kind of thing. They'll say rocks and water, or, and then they might stretch that a little. But let's just ask the same thing, using the same image, just try to erase for a moment what you had just answered from your mind. And I'll just ask the topic in a different way. So using this card or image, but I'll just say card, using this card as a springboard, describe your experience of the last few months. So we can chat or we can speak, whichever, or both. Rocky initially, but new opportunities opening up. Rocky start, but searching for new horizons. Oh, very nice, Malcolm. Change seems bumpy. Finding the new normal is more peaceful. Yeah, the new normal. Also scarcity of work. Yes. Okay, thank you. So that is to demonstrate the different way that we think about a topic. When I ask you the first one about what does this mean for you or mean to you, we get a response. The moment that we tag that with something that is more focused on you as an individual and some kind of lived experience, then it draws much more out. What have we got here? A daily choice as to whether I focus on the rocks, that which is hard, slippery obstacles, or whether I focus on the water beyond, smooth, open. You guys are very good, my goodness, yeah. So that's, the reason for doing this is for us, it's not just about the image, it's also about the way the topic is brought up. And we would call that, as you can probably guess, so it's facilitator's image, my image, your meaning, participant's meaning. And I probably don't even, my guess would be that from an engagement perspective, and from that this is a stronger, would you agree? This is a stronger way to go in that second one. It doesn't mean the other one's wrong. I just mean that the second one, where we start to allow the participants a stronger involvement. And then if we go further, the third level we would refer to is participant's image and participant's meaning. And in the case of image cards, the participant's image may be a limited choice for practicality. So they might have 50 in front of them or 100 in front of them, but it is much more about it being their choice and their meaning. And if the topic is carefully worded and focused on some kind of lived experience, then what happens is much better than simply illustrating, which the first one is really, it's just my illustration to make a point. In the case of CCS, we have always, because of the game paradigm of starting with a board game where it was about creating a dinner party conversation, we've always had, as many of you will know, we've always had the same set of image cards for each participant. We do activities where that isn't the case, but most of the important cases are done with everyone having the same set, and that brings something, a new layer to what you can do with that participant's image and participant's meaning. Alrighty, so that's the way that the images are used, and that who controls the meaning. This one, the method of providing the cards. So maybe a show of hands in a moment, or as to people who may have done this. I identify 3 different main ways of doing this. The first one is what we would call a forced card. Essentially, you have a single image that is given to a participant, and then with a focus on that. And that's really what we've just done a moment ago in those first ones. This one transfers fine virtually, as we've just done now. The other, probably more common one, and really that was created by, I call this the photo language technique, because it was really the photo language people that started this. This is take a swag of images, lay them out, often in a grid, doesn't always have to be a neat grid, of course, but lay them out in front, maybe on the table, perhaps on the floor, maybe stuck to a wall, glue tacked to the wall, and people go and pick from there. We see different approaches in how that works. People are maybe invited to go and look at them privately and then pick one. People may stand around and all lean in and take one. It works well. It does sometimes have the situation we found where someone says, oh, that was the one I was going to get, or I was going to, I wanted to use that one, or oh, that's, I couldn't reach that one, or I couldn't get to it, so I went for another one. And one of the things that I think is kind of the enemy of the vision pack thing, of the image card thing, is the that'll do response, where someone really is wanting to say something in particular anyway, and now they just pick an image to help them. Now I'm not saying that's wrong. That's exactly what we did in that first episode, the first example, facilitators image, facilitators meaning, but it is not necessarily as good as putting them in some kind of discovery mode. This one doesn't translate as easily. The idea of putting up a full screen of images, and we've had people do that. We've had actually people ask us saying, couldn't we just take your sheet of stickers and put them up on the screen and let people pick from there? And has anyone done that, by the way? Has anyone tried just putting up on the screen just a whole lot of images and ask people to pick one? Has anyone tried that? No one in particular, by the look of it, no. That doesn't translate quite as well. Yes, stronger, yeah. So the third one, and something that we have always done with the CCS, is everybody has the same set. and you're all given all asked the same topic and go through and find your own meaning for each of them and then share that way. So 3 different types. This third one is easy and translates really well into the virtual world. And in fact, has a whole opportunity that we've always been seeking as CCS Corporation to provide, and that's the ease with which people could have them. Alrighty. The type of image. Here's 2 images on screen. How about a few chats, or maybe someone on non-mute with just some things that you see, some differences between these 2 images, or some responses to them. Let's refer to the left one, or the one with the woman, if you need to distinguish, but left on screen, left and right is probably enough. So any responses at all?
Stella here. The left image has a person in it, and because of that, it straight away creates a feeling of interaction or engagement, whereas the right image of fruit only appears more static and remote.
Mm-hmm. Anne has said, healthy woman making healthy choices. Yes. Someone says choosing and the choices. Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Reaching for the fruits of my labor. Oh, Bill's the poet, isn't he? Healthy food, loads of choices. Yes. The right image is busier, a pleasant image, but more to take in. Yes. So the way that we have worked, when we first started making image cards, and that was with a game, we began with examples of this one on the left, because the paradigm for testing the game called compatibility, was using magazines. We started with newspapers and magazines are full of this kind of image. Newspapers are full of this as well in their advertising, and they use, of course, documentation images. So photographic evidence is a different thing. We're not talking about that. We're talking about metaphors here. All those things that people have shared are obviously perfect observations. It's just that what we found, that while that was a great way to prototype, that an image like this we would refer to as loaded, and an image on the right as unloaded. This one is a marketing image. We're attracted to it, but we also look at it and we probably go, eye stock. You know, we know that typically people, that doesn't quite look like the standard photo. There's something about that our brain says, yeah, that's an advertising image. Whereas the one on the right is poorly, almost poorly photographed. It's very typical, it's very normal, and I'm not suggesting they're going to give you the same response, but we have erred on the side of the unloaded ones, unless you're actually specifically trying to push a particular point. And just to, and I think the reason for that is, why is that important? Because this one is priming, and this one gives me a bit more permission to say whatever I want to say. There's a bit more opportunity for me to start telling my story there. Not in every case, I understand, but that's an important thing. And if we do this to each image and place a label on them, like I mentioned at the beginning, and an image card with words on them, and say healthy choices, which, as you guys said yourselves, healthy food, loads of choices and so on, I would call this locked and loaded now. You have essentially, this from a marketing standpoint, this is the way to go, of course. This is hitting us in all senses and pushing us strongly in that direction. But it also kind of means that that image is a bit hard to own for yourself now, without saying, oh, it doesn't really mean, you know, I know it says healthy choices, but I'm picking it for this, and that's fine. But we found that it actually works better without that. And even if this label is on the back of the card, so if it has this on the front and then you turn it over, but on the back it's all about healthy choices, it will still be a little bit locked in that position. So when using images this way, just be mindful of those kinds of changes. Focus fruit is blurred on the left. Yeah. What's that about, Jürgen? Is that Jürgen?
Yeah, it's just that the attention gets drawn more to the women
yes.
on the left.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a well-crafted photograph. Yeah. So the other part of the type of image is we use the term common image. And when we started, and I say that because the common image is changing a little bit, but what we found was, and similar to the loaded, is that what worked better was to have images that were from people's photo albums. And often when we would source them, or when we source them from a photographer, we don't take the ones that the photographer thinks we should take. Sometimes you have to prize them out of their hands because they don't want to show you the one that wasn't quite perfect. They want to show you the one that was. But this here is anyone's baby in the bath. Well, not anyone, sorry, we've got to be careful now, of course, with the, in this particular, this is from our original set. This is obviously an Anglo baby, but so in that case, but it is the type of photo, we've all taken that kind of photo. And this one here, a little out of focus, couple of guys, we think, probably fishing. I've seen that kind of image. I've seen people stand up and tell all the same stories that they tell with the rowers in the morning at the crack of dawn working together, but they get there themselves. They didn't get there from our message. And just an aside, this is an image from our later set, from our so-called 2017 edition. This is a common image now. This is straight from a phone. Someone takes their, phone with a time-lapse set, color alteration, and we've all seen these kinds of Instagramming images now. And so common is changing a little, and we keep our eyes on that kind of thing. It's still possible to spot an eye stock though. So eye stock seems to be staying ahead as well. But it's just something to keep in mind about the possibility of getting into that image and having the permission to say, this reminds me of a time when, or this reminds me of my family, or this reminds me of when we went to Tasmania on that kind of thing. So that's important. So they're the image keys, what we refer to as the image keys. I just want to look at a few points now on how we take those images and facilitate with them. And some of the things that we believe are vital in using them in any setting. And we'll be suggesting to people that they transfer these same kinds of techniques into the virtual. I'll just bring them up here in front now. How you frame up presenting the cards is vital, and we'll go through these one by one in a moment. The way you word the topic, the giving people time is vital, letting everyone talk about their choices, and then moving to shared vision with that. Let's just look at these together in a moment, because what I want to do, both in the real and the virtual world, is we're seeking to do this. These are the kinds of things, some of which came up at the start and some of which I'm now adding. We want people in discovery mode. That's the most important thing from our perspective. We want to use the images to let people experience novelty, experience something new. We want their emotions engaged. We know images do that. The mutual disclosure, perfect opportunity for equal voice, common ground, and shared vision, uniting people around those things. And that's the reason for this approach. So just 5 quick steps here. I can sum up how you frame when you're about to introduce your images to people with this one phrase, that this is just something we say all the time. Any card can mean anything to anyone at any time. And Dr. Sue Curtis, who we worked with, added this last line. I said, surely Sue already says that. And she said, no, you need to say this as well. There are no set meanings for the cards. And that's not always said to people. Sometimes people will just give the image out. I did it at the start myself. I just launched straight into it. But when giving people more than one, giving them an opportunity to take that and share and create their own ideas and their own meaning, we need to make sure they know that they are free to do that. So the topic itself, I demonstrated before that I can ask you one simple topic and say, what does this mean for you? Or we can have something that's a little more focused. This is what I would call a good CCS or a good image card topic. Go through your pack and find 5 cards that for you describe the experience of being led in this organization. That's actually quite a hard question to answer if you just ask someone flatly. You could put them in groups and they could pull that apart. But what we find is if you word it in this particular way and then give people image cards, you can get the magic happening. But in particular, let's look at some of these elements. So go through your pack. I haven't said think things through and now go in your pack. I say go through your pack first. So I want you to discover and find 5 cards. It doesn't have to be 5. 5 is nice. 3 is good. 2 sometimes, 1 sometimes. But it's just a number that lets people realize they have to prioritize eventually. And it's a reasonable number so that they can share their whole story as well. So find some kind of number. And that for you, this is another Dr. Sue Curtis injection, that for you. This is a reminder to everybody that this is for, this is all about you. And the experience of being led. Images are great at tapping people's experience, their feelings, and their emotions. So even just putting the word in there, it's your experience of being led. What it's like to be led is similar, or how does it feel to be led? And you can practice the topic yourself easily. You get the cards out, you ask yourself a topic, and you just see, what does it actually feel like to do it? But importantly, how am I going to answer that? Probably the biggest thing I hear, particularly from the people who are trying to, they're given a certain block of time and they say, how can I use the cards to do something? How can we use the image cards for that? Is I don't have time for that. They won't have time to spend thinking things through too much. I need to move quickly. In fact, I even had someone say to me the other day, what about the impatient participants who just want to be able to pick something? For me, that's a bit of a red flag. I understand we have impatient participants, but they're the people who we want to slow down a bit. They're the ones that we want to actually help to have a bit more of a discovery moment. And as professional facilitators, it's easy enough to give the illusion that you're giving them enough time. You just tell them they can have all the time they need and then begin to move them to the end as other people start to finish. And we'll be building that kind of thing into future versions as well when we look at the full virtual environment. But the key here is we want a genuine opportunity for critical reflection and new thinking, and we need people to have that moment, to feel that. And the dreaded that'll do response. So that's, again, minimizing by not pushing them too much so that they do understand that they can actually take time to pick. Number 4, sometimes we don't know what we think until we hear what we say. Sometimes we don't know what we think until we hear what we say or till we see what we write. And this is a really important thing. I've chosen some images. Often, I'm not even quite sure why. You may have seen participants pick 3 or 4 cards and say, you know, I know why this one is and I know why this one is, but this one sort of just jumped out for some reason. I'm not saying it's magic, but for some reason it jumped through to the brain there, and it's not until they start to talk about it that they become clearer, that they understand the meaning behind that, and that in doing that conversation, in talking to the person beside them, not only do they start creating the trust and the unique dialogue between them and that other person, often that leads to further thoughts, new ideas as well, and new connections, generative metaphors really, between those 2 people or more. And lastly, it's an ideal opportunity to begin with the individual, move to the smaller group, and then ultimately to the larger group to create genuine shared vision. It doesn't matter what people pick. It's not about the actual image choices they make. It's about why they said they chose what they chose. And it is a wasted opportunity so often if all we do is an icebreaker and not take that chance to build on the ideas and the sharing that's been happening. All right, so image keys and facilitation keys. I'll just take a moment to pause because I want to, in a moment, just demonstrate the app itself and show how we've begun to bring these kinds of things into, at least into our first app. But I just thought maybe if people have, do people have any questions or anything at this point? Or any comments? Mine says 19 new messages, but I haven't been looking properly. It's a really lovely language. Oh, great presentation. Thank you very much, Meredith. What about, has anybody tried taking, not just CCS cards, taken image cards in virtual situations? Done anything at all in maybe, lots of head shaking, any thumbs ups?
Yeah, Craig, I have done sort of, not through a virtual instructor-led training, but in my online training programs. So one of the activities that I do is to get teams in a classroom environment and a face-to-face environment, and get them to randomly select 5 cards. So they just pull them from the deck, and so they're totally randomized. And then they quickly discuss what they see in the card. So instantaneous, what did you see it in, what jumped out at you, and things like that. And then discuss that, and then invent a brand new, never before seen in the universe product, service, or business. And well, I put that blog together for you on that people might be interested in. But what I'm doing is I'm using the pressure of time and the tool of the cards to make that happen. So when I went into the online environment for the university and other things, I had to figure out, well, how do I make that happen? And so what I did do is I created a series of 5 cards and gave them different ones that they could select. So again, there wasn't the randomness of a thing, but the cards were formed in a random session, and they could pick one. Now that is less than satisfactory, but it was some way to do it. And then they would go in and sort of collaborate in a forum kind of process with each other in order to go through that same process. Now, again, I don't have the value of the time that I give them, because I give them like 9 minutes to make it happen, because I want inspiration, nothing too thought through. So I don't have that, but I put the instructions in there, and some of them do that pretty well. So it's one of those things that I have tried. It seems to work. I do get some interesting stuff. Nothing is as fantastic as I get when I'm in the real environment of the face-to-face environment. But certainly it works. And again, that's where I'm looking to say, how do we actually do that in a more interactive way? Breakout rooms are a great way to do that, potentially on Zoom. And I'd be experimenting with that with the app and things like that. So that's my thinking there.
Yes. But did you give them the cards just as like PowerPoint slides or something, or JPEG?
Yeah, so what I've done is I've just basically put 5 images on a PowerPoint slide, and there's 6 of them there or something like that, and say, select one, doesn't matter which one, just take one, and don't overthink it, just grab one and then go to work on that using those images. And so I explain that the process to them, and I'm explaining it to them exactly as I would explain it in a workshop, because I'm there, maybe not live, but I've recorded it as if it's live. So
thank you. Anybody else? I'll move on if not. So there are one of the things that actually we've had people doing, organizations doing for a number of years when they've been in different locations. Our very first time we ever did this was a massive event. We had 500 people, all with a vision pack, in the Superdome in Sydney, and 350 up in Brisbane. Everyone had packs. And we were actually, in those days, using a phone to ring between each other and tell the facilitators up in Queensland were telling us what people were picking down in Sydney, and we then virtually produced a vision across those 2 venues that they were fed back at the end of the day. Now that's a little bit dramatic, and maybe not everyone's going to do that, but we have had very common virtual programs that have been run where a kit of materials is sent out and the packs and stickers are attached to those journals and out they go. And people literally hold the cards up in front of the screen and share that way. It's a great way to get people to do something before they come to the event or after the event, and put stickers down and use that as a feedback and as a result. So that's not quite where we're headed, I don't think, but it is still very valid now, and we have lots of organisations doing that kind of thing. We're now going to move to the virtual image cards. I'm just about to show you that, where we can take out the first step of having to provide cards to people in the real world. But I'm still going to be supporting very much the idea that there are combinations of these. And because one thing the CCS or image cards have always had is an opportunity to be off the phone, off your device. Cards in your hand are well known. It's been around for many hundreds of years, and we like to touch them. They're easy to sort, they're easy to move around. We don't want to lose all those kinds of things as well. And so I'm kind of advocating at this point, we'll be starting to put out processes and things that say, if your team is using the app on their phone, maybe the facilitator has a large jumbo or still has some stickers. So once you've made your choices, you go and do something more concrete, more pens and paper. Or maybe you print off the app with its images, but no comments, and you add the comments then using a pen and paper to trigger different thoughts and thinking as well. So let's have a look. I'm going to connect to the app now. Now I'm doing this, in my case, for those tech people who are interested, I'm actually doing this on a Windows machine with an Android phone. And I'll just share now, just a moment. I'll get rid of this thing so it gets off the screen. Okay, it's just connecting to my phone. Okay, everybody see that? Yeah, good. All right, so here's my nice little icon. Thank you, Anita, little thumbs up. So this is on an Android phone. It runs on the iPhone as well. Now, just to prove, I do have the phone in my hand, and I can swipe and touch on here, but I'm going to use my mouse on screen, because on Windows, using the free app that is part of Windows, which is called My Phone Companion, allows you to actually control your phone from the screen itself using the mouse. On Apple, you would plug your phone into the base, plug it into the base and then the little firewire and into your machine, and you can then share the screen that way. So let me just go to this section here. I thought I'd just quickly flick through the built-in app tour. It's just a little outline of what does what. And as I go through, just talk to you about the kinds of things that we have been attempting to build in to make sure that part of the real world is still there. The things that we think are important, we're trying to build in. So here's a pack. You can swipe, you can click, you can see how many cards there are in any one pack, and that'll become important as we go. I'm now actually on a full screen here. If I swipe a card, it will go to full screen. And this straight away brings up something. I believe we're going to need to, as facilitators, just, if we're going to keep people on their phone, we don't have the advantage of saying get off your phone, keep them on their phone. We are going to have to remind them to slow down and take a moment. The moment I handed one of our test apps to some younger people, they zoomed through the pictures like they were picking a date. And they might have to go around twice. We might need to keep that in mind. But I did want the full screen available. You can double click on the screen and select it, or you can click on the little add and add your card to your selected pack. A very common process in the CCS or in image cards is give me a pack, ask me to go through. You might have said find 5, but often people pick 30 or 15 or 20 and then pick up that small selected pack and whittle it down to the 4 or 5 that you've asked for. So we have the same approach. Pick some cards and bring them into your selected pack. And just down here, I've got I'll just get rid of that there. I don't want that over the top of the screen. So that little black thing will go away in a moment. just down here, I know that it's small down, but it's a little rotating. You'll see it on when I just go live in a moment with the app in itself. This is a little rotating thing here to try to give people a sense of where they are in the pack. That's really important. When you're not holding it, you've really got no idea how many cards there are left, how far am I? We didn't want to actually have the cards counting down as you're going through, because there's some kind of stigma associated with what card number and so on. It works actually better just to let people select, and as they choose some, we see them over here. These are being chosen. So I've now moved into the selected pack. I've selected 4. Here they are here, and I can send them back to the main pack, or I can go back and get more, or I can move on to what is a very typical CCS thing to do, and that is to lay out your cards on the table, or in this case, on the screen. This looks a little complex here. It doesn't, of course, when you're in the app itself, but just pointing out all the different things. When you get to this screen, it actually lets you put them in order of preference. This is another thing that I'm becoming very aware of. Software, because it's so efficient and visual, can often put us in a position of saying, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put your cards in order. That is one thing, but it's definitely not something that everybody always does. So we just need to remind people that I know you can put them in order, you don't have to if you don't want. Name your visions and export. You can pick different packs, you can reset and shuffle, and away you go. So let's just have a look. I'll just start it up here. So I can click on here to move through the cards. Your participants could be doing this off screen themselves on their phone, picking cards as they go through. Let's just pick a few. I'm not really thinking it through properly, am I? I haven't got time, I'm just choosing a few. Picking a few. Then you could say, go through your selected pack and refine your choices. So they could move through here at full screen. And it looks different on different phones depending on the ratios. And now they can put their cards in order if they wish, or drag them around. You can double click, add comments about your card. I'll just say, I'm not going to try to write anything fancy. Oops, can't even spell. My choice, which is very bad, but it'll do for the demonstration just to show you what I want. And when we come back, the little card has a little icon in it saying there's a comment on that. You can also flip them around. So maybe you're about to share your choices. So maybe we flip over to Adele and we would say, Adele, can you share your choices now? Adele shares this particular screen. Then she could go through and tell us why she chose each one, or she could double click on it and tell us why she chose each one. Trying to keep the same kind of things that have been important to us all the way along. Let's put them back in order in this particular case. So I can turn them all back around. And then we come here, we could give it a title and subtitle if you wish. Now, here are our image choices, and here's our little comment we made. We can export this to your photo gallery in your camera and share it or print it as required. And at any time you can go back, you can and save that vision and bring it back. You can pick different packs. So if I shuffle and reset, now I've got the express pack, different images again. And it can come to load vision. Here's the one I've done earlier, so I can bring it in. It tells me that one had 4 images in it. There they are, it's got the comments, and I could see that again. So I could have been asked to do that before the session, before my coaching session, and either export it ahead of time or just have it ready to talk about when I get there. Just let me switch that off. So I'm just about to come to the end of where I am now. Where are we? Over here. Just let me share this one. So a couple of things. Obviously, the benefits of the app are going to be great. There are some tricky things, but it's going to be easy to distribute. Everyone can have a pack. Pre and post sessions could be simply sending someone, emailing them a topic and saying, try this. Recording choices, switching image sets, and from a very practical perspective, it's always been worth its weight to carry, I think, a vision pack set, but no carrying, no collation, no waste, and getting it around the world easily. And those couple of things that I mentioned, we need to go slowly. We need to be aware of the person's lack of place, not knowing exactly where they are necessarily as they go through, looking out for the different cues from the interface itself. And I want to make sure we still encourage people to fully share and mixing it with paper tools. And lastly, where are we going from here? Our next step is and actually Sue, you were asking me about this, Sue Zablad there. We were going to make a version of the app for PC and Mac, because that was going to be the only way to really share it easily on Zoom. And in the time that we've been doing it over the last number of months, particularly Windows has brought out what I'm now using now, and it's not going to be necessary to do that. So we're going to move directly to this next bit, which I cannot show you anything of yet, but this is the full facilitation environment where you would be able to control your participants. Well, your participants will be able to share their screens straight to one central location controlled by the facilitator, and then everybody can work with that set. So they leave their individual ones in a sense and go to the main screen and share there. And we'll be following all the same principles that I bring up today to try to continue to get that same discovery mode, that collaboration, that building trust with all the things that we've talked about. So there we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Craig, this is Stella. Do you have time for a quick question?
I have all the time you guys need. I was worried about how long I took then. Bill did give me more time, so I probably took it.
We have plenty of time at this stage. We got about maybe 10 minutes that we can take some questions and answers or share some ideas.
Okay, I'll just de-share here just a second and come back. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Craig, Stella here again. So I'm really interested in that app you've created, just trying to put the, 2 and 2 together. And when you say about the participants being able to pick from the pack, does that mean that they also have access to the app, not just the facilitator?
Okay, so yeah, so at present, this is an individual pack. So this is $19.99 on the App Store all over the world. And it's like you were buying an individual vision pack now and giving it to them. So you, at this point, the way you work with app stores and the Google Play stores, you can't just buy them and hand them out. You have to, for this kind of thing, you have to do it at this level. And so in this case, Stella, it's just your participants, in this case, have to have this app in order to use it instead of normal packs. So I'm seeing some organizations I would expect where they say, oh, great, okay, so we can now have all of our employees download this and credit them back, I guess, and knowing that it's available to be used by incoming facilitators or for their own internal organizations themselves, or in the cases of your own clients, if it's a coaching client, just essentially building that in as something that they need to get. It would normally have been the cost of the materials. This is much cheaper than the cost of the materials, and there's none of the sending around.
So we would probably deliver virtually more through PowerPoint than Zoom at this stage. GoToWebinar we use. We probably deliver to 100 plus every month. I just can't quite work out the logistics of how how to provide that, but I love the idea.
So the next thing that we'll be putting together is probably more focused on that. The idea of that is that it's a cut down version of this app. It's like basically selecting the cards only, moving through to the layout, adding some comments, but that's about it. But as the facilitator, you make that available. So they can download the app for free. This doesn't exist yet, but this is coming. They download the app for free.
Yeah.
You as the facilitator you subscribe to a piece of software that we are putting together, that then you provide them all with a code. When they put that code in, they're connected to that session. If you've played the Kahoots games or the quiz games on a mobile phone, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes total sense now, Craig. Thank you. Yeah.
So in that case, you'll have that possibility, but we haven't got that yet.
Sure.
Craig, one of the things that strikes me as we've gone through this lockdown and the pandemic and everything else is the amount of creativity and innovation that's being shown by not just people in L&D, but in all types of businesses, and the way they've been able to adapt to that. I think we're going through a surge of innovative processes. And one of the things that strikes me is as you roll this out a little bit more, keep us all informed. But then, I know you were going to build your facilitator manuals and all that kind of stuff. But as people come up with new ways of doing things, we should share them with you and build them into the whole process. So my encouragement is anybody that comes up with, say, hey, I tried this and it really worked well, or I tried this and it didn't work so well, but here's how I might improve it, things like that. I think that's how we build, that's one of the things that ILP is really trying to do, is create this community where we can learn from each other and share things with each other that work and things that we don't, that are problematic. So maybe have a way that you can actually capture some of that and encourage people to contribute. Yeah,
well, as an idea already, the people have particular processes, of course, and your own processes that you might have. We will definitely be, even in the existing app itself, maybe it's career, we have a little program called Career Catalyst. The idea that those kinds of things could be built into the device itself or into the app itself and guiding you through it. Or if if members of your organization have a particular process, I would love the idea that you would, where the CCS fits into that, or the images fit into that, you lock them, you start it up and it basically guides the group through it, just like a visual facilitation chart on the wall does. I could see that same kind of thing happening as well. Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask around the technology piece that you talked about, connecting your Android phone to the screen? Those of us who have Apple phones but PCs, which is my situation, I think there's someone else who asked the same question. Yeah. How would you do that?
Okay, so at present, the easiest way, that's my partner as well has the same thing. There is a piece of software, it's $25.
Right.
It's called Reflector 3, and you install that. You can try it. It's got a 7-day free trial, so you can try it anyway. It just puts a little band across the phone, but what it will allow you to easily connect your iPhone to your PC without any trouble at all. And the little phone with a little icon around the outside, basically looks like a phone on screen.
Wonderful. Okay.
It's on the screen, and then you can share that directly.
So then I can show the app to the students or the participants.
Correct. Yes, definitely. So what it doesn't do, the phone companion one on PC allows you to actually control your phone from the screen as well. It doesn't do that, and neither does the one on Apple, but neither does Apple one. But as far as saying, okay, now everybody, I'd like to, you can all go one by one and share what you have on your screens, or if you're demonstrating to your people, yes, most definitely. So no problem.
Thank you.
So give it a try.
I will. Thank you.
Very easy. I'm going to put something out very shortly, like in the next few days. I'll put a thing up saying, if you've got this phone and this machine, go and get this.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anybody else got anything they want to share at this stage?
Yes, Yoli?
Hi, Craig.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation. I've done a lot of visual cards with vulnerable people in the community. I do a lot of adult community building programs. Mm-hmm. And I can see what you've got will be great for that cohort as well as in the business world. Mm-hmm. I'm also wondering, because I love being a creative, I love to design my own cards as well. Yes. Is there an opportunity to design your own as well through your app?
So there isn't yet, but Yoli, you're touching on something that we are quite excited about ourselves. And I can't tell you when we're going to have this either, but very much the idea that you would take your phone, go through its camera roll and say add, and have that go into the app and become a set that you can use. Also with some kind of templating guidelines from us as well, if people want to follow that and say you pick 5 that look like this, or have this kind of approach, pick 5 that have with a sort of a filtering way of getting to, or a funneling way of producing a set. Most definitely, Yeah, I think we might head down the path of it being a little bit more like a platform. I know that's a very groovy term to use, but there is that option, I think, to give a tool to facilitators to do what they need. I also think that we'll be getting to the point where we can put out many image sets, and maybe even people themselves create image sets and upload them, and just like Redbubble, people download someone else's set and use it. Maybe there's all that there. I still want to make sure that we don't overdo it, that we don't kind of kill the loveliness that happens when people see these images for the first time. But there are so many advantages in being able to get everybody with a pack easily. And I think there's a lot more people that are likely to try it as well, because it just feels different when and it's so easy to try.
Yeah, I could also imagine a project where young people can go out and take photographs to create packs for each other.
Yes, totally. Yep. That's actually like our game originally, the compatibility. It's a different thing when you actually pick the images for yourself to use, because you've already kind of loaded it a little. But for you to get a set and then say let's all play is kind of fun.
Yeah, great.
All right, I think we're going to have to start to wrap it up. Craig, thank you very, very much for that. That was terrific, and it's good to see the changes that are going on. And I think, as I said before, the innovation that's going to take place and the use of things will be expanded as each of us starts to use new ways of doing things. So thank you again for that. Everybody give Craig a big thumbs up there with the...
Thank you very much.
So there you go.
All right, good stuff. Thank you.
Good stuff. All right, just to finish up then before I turn it back to Carrie, just a reminder of a few things we have coming up. First of all, Friday, we have our usual ILP member lounge, which has been turning into a very social, casual process where we learn a lot from each other. The process we're using now is that when everybody's together, we pull up the whiteboard and people put in 2 or 3 things they'd maybe like to share or talk about during the meeting. We then use the stamp function in annotations to vote on which ones we'd like to see, because sometimes it's people put up things, hey, that's actually really interesting to me. So people get 3 votes, and then we just move from there to giving a 5 or 6 minute countdown on each of those sessions. And if it's the conversation still going great, we might add an extra 2 or 3 minutes, but then we move to the next priority and the next priority and the next priority and get through as many as we can. So it's something that Lyndall Box, who's left the session now, that she uses here in our Geelong meetups. But I found it very effective, and it gives everybody a feeling of participation. So that's a regular thing we're continuing to do every 10 o'clock on every Friday morning. Just register. Once you've registered the first time, you can the link can be reused each week, so you can just load it up into your calendar. Second thing, I guess, is we've got the 2 weeks from today. We have Jane Anderson, brand specialist, giving us a great presentation looking at how to develop your brand for L&D people. And we hear great things about the work she's been doing in that area. And she's going to give us an hour of her time to take us through that. And I think it's going to be one of the really exciting sessions, another really exciting session for us to do. So be sure to go back to the ILP events page and have a look and join us for that session as well. And I'm working on the 4 weeks from now, the session as well. And we're hoping to have a fellow from Europe join us to take us through some stuff on the brain and how we connect and things like that in learning and development. So we got a lot of things coming up. So keep us in mind. Check the websites out as much as you can. And thank you very much for attending. Carrie, I'll turn it over to you to shut us down.
I get the fun part. Thanks, Bill. And covering on, as you can see, everybody, we're really trying and working hard behind the scenes to make sure that we're adding lots of value and supporting L&D professionals. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Craig, thank you so much for a very practical session full of tips and ideas, and some of the comments have been very positive. I really enjoyed your practical and logical flow, because obviously I think that games background comes into the way that you present. So I always enjoy not just the content, but also how it's delivered. So well done on both counts. So thank you very much. Everyone else, I look forward to catching up with you very soon, either in the members lounge or one of the masterclasses we've got coming up. Take care, stay safe. Bye, everybody.